Authors want validation. We worked hard on our books. We want them to be seen. We want them to be loved. If we didn't, why would we have gone through all the effort of writing a book in the first place? I know I have mine that I worked hard on. Many other authors feel the same. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've talked to hundreds of different authors. One thing I have learned in talking with so many people is, generally speaking, there are a lot of authors out there who would rather walk barefoot over broken glass than do meaningful marketing work. That is how much many authors hate marketing. And you couple that hatred of marketing with the desire for validation and to have an audience reading the book you worked so hard on, and that makes authors uniquely susceptible to scams. There are a lot of scams out there. They come in many different forms. In this video, I wanted to give people a look at real scam emails to see some of the flavors that they come in and learn the signs to diagnose how to tell that an email is not legitimate so that you don't get taken in on any of this nonsense and waste time or your hard-earned money. So a disclaimer before we dive in, because I am showing real emails, I have hidden the identity of authors who receive these emails in the interest of trying to protect them from further spam. I do not protect the spam email accounts though, so you will see those actual email addresses and those names. Some of the names used on these emails belong to real people. The assumption I want you to take going into this video is that those real people did not send these emails. We should assume that those people are the victims of impersonation, that other bad actors are taking their names and leveraging their names and reputations to add an air of legitimacy to their schemes. Nobody you see named in this video do I think is actually trying to rip off authors. Do not direct any hostility, negativity, or harassment towards individuals you see named here. They are not the problem. Now, I want to start with an example. This is one I personally received. This was what I call a lazy author impersonation attempt. As you can see, there was no subject line on this email, and the email address was an author's real name and then a number at gmail.com. And it starts, "Hey you." Like, you can't even include my real name. Who do you want to work with that starts a cold conversation with "Hey you"? I hope this message finds you well is really generic trash that doesn't advance the conversation. What I omitted here is the scammer took real details from this author's website and remixed those to try to establish their credibility. I'd love to connect with you about writing, publishing, or possible collaboration opportunities. Always great to connect with fellow authors. So this person wants me to contact them. They want me to start providing them information, presenting themselves as another author. Nowhere in this email am I named. My book isn't named. There's no connection to why this person would want to collaborate with me. And I looked this person up afterwards and very quickly established they're not legit. They don't even write in my genre. I emailed this author using the contact form on their site as a professional courtesy to let them know that they were being impersonated. But yeah, like, we're in different genres. There's no overlap. I don't know, nothing in here to say how they found me. And I confirmed with the actual author that yes, they had not contacted me. It was an impersonation. Because I didn't see the overlap. And if we are going to collaborate, there's nothing in here explaining why the author wanted to collaborate with me. Let's pretend for a second this was a legitimate email. If somebody cannot take the time to explain what it is about my work that makes them want to collaborate with me or why they think we would be a good mix, why should I move forward and give them any time to actually pursue a collaboration? Why should it be incumbent on me, the person being reached out to figure out why it would be a good fit? You came to me. So, this one was a pretty easy to recognize scam. I'm highly skeptical of anything that comes from a Gmail. Always be skeptical of Gmail. Another one I personally received is famous author impersonation. Harlan Coben wants to talk to me. I've always believed that stories start with curiosity, a question, a moment, a person you can't stop thinking about. Sometimes an idea arrives fully formed, but more often it takes time, patience, and a fair amount of wrestling before it finds its shape. So here we've got the rule of three twice in one paragraph: a question, a moment, a person you can't stop thinking about, and then immediately, more often it takes time, patience, and a fair amount of wrestling. AI loves the rule of three in its writing. So this first paragraph is extremely telling of AI's typical writing style. Again, here we've got author's first initial, last name, and a number at gmail.com. There's nothing, they want to reach out to me. They want to hear about my author journey. How's it going? I want to meet new authors. I want to make new friends, because writing it behind the keyboard is lonely. And so a lot of authors can be desperate for that kind of connection. Use Facebook groups, use professional discords, go to local writer meetups if you want to find people. Real authors, in my experience, don't cold email each other wanting to connect. And if you do, you are a lot more specific about the what's and the whys than this. So I go, no, Harlan Coben isn't a name that immediately struck me, not a reader of his, but I was like, this has the hallmarks of a famous impersonation scam. I'm going to look him up. Sure enough, Harlan Coben is doing very well for himself, has the kind of career that most authors would only dream of, Netflix adaptations, New York Times bestsellers. Harlan's doing very well for himself. Harlan doesn't need to cold email an author like me with one book out, working on my second, to go, hey, let's connect. How's it going? With no other, reasons, whatever. Harlan didn't contact me, okay? Email deleted. Very quickly and easy to identify that was a scam. Now I've got another one here as an example of literary agent impersonations. This one came to me, and this one here, first name dot last name at gmail.com, but we're representing that we belonged to a literary agency, as you can see down in the bottom line there. Dear Nate, so points for actually including my name here. I recently came across your work online and wanted to reach out. There's a natural flow to your writing that makes it very engaging to read, which left a strong impression on me. Again, here they're trying to stroke my ego. Hey, your writing's great. I was really impressed. It's vague, generic praise here. My book was not named. There's nothing specific here that tells me this person actually knows what my book is or that they actually read it. There's no meaningful feedback to prove. And I'm just actually noticing as I record this now that Bransford is misspelled. There's two R's in the last name in the URL, Nathan.Bransford, when the name is correctly spelled down here. So there's another red flag that I missed. But it's name at Gmail, suspicious, vague praise, suspicious. And now they're not even representing themselves. They're trying to represent a different literary agent. Hey, you should talk to Valeria Huerta, who works with material in this space, and maybe you'd be a strong fit for her. I already know this is a scam, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper just to figure out, okay, you're not representing yourself. You're telling me to talk that you know of Valeria. Who's Valeria? Well, first, here's the real Nathan. Helping authors achieve their dreams. Nathan is an author, editor, former literary agent. So this is where our scammer's pulling information from to impersonate the real Nathan Bransford. But then I looked up the real Valeria Huerta. She is a real person, is a senior agent. But for me, here's just yet another obvious, I took 10 seconds to research this and I can tell it's a scam. Valeria specialized in lifestyle, health, and personal development titles. I underlined Valeria is, here, I'm going to turn off my webcam for a sec. Valeria is passionate about expanding her nonfiction list. Her focus is on representing high-quality, zeitgeisty narrative nonfiction that will become future classics. I write multiverse portal fantasy about a pyromancer, a dryad, and an elven warrior queen on a quest across the multiverse to stop monsters from wiping out one world after another. It's not zeitgeisty narrative nonfiction. I do hope it will become a future classic, but in no way is this what Valeria is looking for. She would not be coming to me looking for my brand of fantasy. I would not be pitching to her because what she says she's looking for does not match what I am providing. If you're on the fence about who some of these people are, you're not familiar with the names, you can look them up, and a lot of the time you're going to find obvious mismatches like this, I think, where they just picked a name of somebody who has some web presence or has had some success, and so they say, who, this agent wants to pick me up? No, I legitimately don't think Valeria would have any interest in representing me. Another common version of this, I did not have one of these myself, but another author was kind enough to provide this to me, is what I call the I ran your blurb through ChatGPT literary pitch, where somebody takes the back of your blurb from Amazon, some other retailer, they basically remix it and then use that very similar language to what you actually included in your blurb to make it sound like, oh, I loved your book and I need to contact you and we need to go over all of these things. So here again, we're using a real person's name. I recently came across the book and was drawn to its immersive parallel world, emotionally charged character dynamics, and a compelling journey of a heroine forced to confront rejection, hidden truths, and her own inner strength. The blend of supernatural suspense, packed politics, and high-stakes storytelling gives the novel a distinctive voice within the paranormal genre. That's all vague nonsense. It's all meant to sound like I'm familiar with your work, but it's generic. It's not specific enough to prove that somebody is actually familiar with the book. If you're open to it, I love to start a conversation. No, absolutely not. This one is better than most because it does not come from a Gmail address. If you look at the address line, it's at penguinrandomshouse.com. Looking at this email forwarded to me from another author, I almost thought it was legit but bad for a second. Like, surely this person would try harder to pitch an author they actually care about, right? Then I looked at the email address again, and that's why I have an arrow pointing at the S. It's not at penguinrandomhouse.com. It's penguinrandomshouse.com. They slipped the S in there, and they're hoping you don't notice. So it's something very close to the real thing that is not the real thing, where it almost passed my it almost passed my smell test before I gave it a second glance, despite being meaningless nonsense within the text itself. I had two different authors submit to me a version of a radio contact scam for the same radio station, WFMU 91.1 FM. You can see it here. And here again, upcoming author interview on WFMU 91.1.FM. This one comes from Jana Cooper, note name and number at gmail.com. This one has new submission from contact form. It comes in a format to imply that you, the author, contacted them first when you did not. So it's like, hey, I'm replying to your thing. So you might go, I don't recall replying to that thing. Or, they're playing on a failure of your memory to jog you to go, hey, I'm going to look this up and all of that. I hope you're doing well. Honestly, if you are a real professional, please don't ever start an email with, I hope this email finds you well. I hope you're doing well. It's a throwaway sentence to break the ice that accomplishes nothing. Get to the point or say something specific. Anyway, rant on that over. They're trying to establish their legitimacy. Here's what our package offers. There's no payment required to begin the process. Our editorial team prepares features for you to review first, and nothing is published without your approval. If you decide to move forward after reviewing the materials, the only cost is the standard distribution fee charged by the independent newswire service. That's all bullshit. Don't buy it. If, they're going to want your information, once they've got you hooked, they're going to start pressuring you with more packages. It would not surprise me if somebody went through all of this, that the price tags they would be looking for are in the four figures. 1250, 2500 easy. They're going to try to take everything you can from you. There's more fees. It doesn't work this way. If a news station honestly wants to contact you, they would contact you, or you could contact them and say, hey, I wrote this book about this thing. I think it would be interesting to readers of or listeners of your podcast or your radio station because, and if they agree with you, they will just have you on. You don't need to be paying for this stuff. And here again, please note that a modest participation fee helps cover the production and scheduling costs. No legitimate business should be subsidizing their work on the backs of authors. They have ad revenue for that. There's Patreon, there's subscriber revenue. There are other common methods of monetizing these sorts of things that are not pay to play. If you see the words, please note that a fee, just delete the email. There's also a scam variant that I have dubbed "You Suck, Hire Me." In this version of it, somebody is going to send you an email to say, hey, you're doing X, Y, or Z. For example, this author received a note about their newsletter where it's, you're doing this, but you're doing it terribly, and so you should hire me instead. And then they will turn what you're actually doing into a pitch for their services. Even if this is completely legitimate, I think that is a remarkably unprofessional way to go about growing your business, is to walk in the door and go, hey, you're crap and you need me. There are more tactful ways to go about doing that. None of the language in this particular email is really egregious, but it's just like saying, hey, your stuff isn't working, so you should pay me instead. Even if it's legitimate, I personally would never respond to somebody who takes this particular tactic to cold contacting me. And lastly, this one, you're less likely to see this as an author, although it does happen sometimes. But if you're also running any other kind of author services, if you offer coaching, if you have a blog, and other times people will do guest pitches or guest blogs, or you're doing guest blogs on someone else's site, you might see something like this, where sites will want to work with you or sponsor content or have you sponsor content on their site. So here is an example. Sponsored post opportunity on text2front.com. They want me to pay for a post on text2front.com. And they say, hi. They don't bother to include my name. Thanks for reaching out. I'm reaching out from text2front.com, an online font tools platform used by people looking for stylish text, font generators, and creative text tools. Not super relevant or high traffic to what I would want to achieve. If you have a relevant brand, tool, or service to promote, please share your requirements and budget. So again, this is what I mean by lazy. If you have a relevant brand, tool, or service to promote, tells me you emailed me without even knowing what my brand, tool, or service is. You don't even know why you're emailing me. And you want me to reach out to you to share my requirements and my budget? No, you've put in no effort. Why should I? This kind of low effort, I think most people would give this one a pass right away because there's no effort put into it. But those are a few of the many different kinds of scam emails you can see. As a general rule, if it is name and a number at gmail.com, high probability that it's a scam. If you can afford to get a domain name and afford to get an email address that is branded to your username, do it. My personal author email address is nate@nategillick.com. So it is coming from my brand name, my domain. It is me. I do not use a generic Gmail for professional communications. which is one way of helping establish that it is actually me. I will never send professional communications over a generic Gmail. But I know people who do. If you're going to reach out to somebody, be specific. If you cannot give somebody specific feedback and detail about why you're reaching out, or they don't provide that information to you to show they made an effort to engage with your writing, or they have a legitimate reason to want to work with you, just delete that. Ignore vague generic praise without anything specific backing it up. And don't respond to generic emails that say, I just want to talk with you about your writing journey, or how's writing going for you, or blah, 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 where they're just looking to fish for personal information and they've given you really nothing about themselves to justify why you want to make this networking opportunity. So those are some basic things on very common scam types to look out for and ways to check them and verify them. I hope this helps. If you have seen any kind of scam emails I did not cover here, let me know in the comments what sorts of things you're seeing, what the red flags were, how you diagnosed that it was a scam. Let's help each other learn from these sorts of things so that none of us fall prey to bad actors.